Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I thought I'd take a look at the subject of pop promotional videos and whether they're a worthy art form or a necessary evil, I called the video. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about the history of and the development of the promo video, and then sort of tell you what I think, how various groups sort of stack up with their record in this medium. And then I will give you 12 videos which are among my favourites, taken from my collection, I have to admit, I think in almost every case. And then go through, just tell you some of the money that people spend on these things. It really is quite unbelievable. But I'll come to that when we come to it. So, you know, I would say since the late 70s, or maybe early 80s, it's been virtually obligatory for major artists, when they release a single, to do a video to go with it. And many hit singles from the early 80s onwards are almost indistinguishable from the accompanying video that went with it. And we'll come to why that happened and what led up to it. And MTV was a large part of it in the early days, for sure. But let's just go back in time a bit and talk about before pop music came along. I know we had rock and roll in the 50s, but there wasn't really anything in the way of promo videos. We had the Elvis films, if they count. I'm not sure how much he used to sing in them, and there used to be songs in older films, even dating back to the 40s. But in the early 60s, the sort of concept of groups performing short clips to promote their songs started, and it started in the form of TV appearances, with groups appearing on shows in the UK like Ready Steady Go, and also on radio quite a bit on shows like Saturday Club, and one dedicated to the Beatles called Pop Goes the Beatles. And then we had a show in the UK called Top of the Pops, which started the 1st of January 1964, where groups would come in and mime to their songs for the most part because of the union rules. I think I'm right in saying they had to mime, but it was a bit that the law wasn't that strict, so people could get away with not miming or vice versa. I forgot to mention Ed Sullivan in the US had a show which dates back to actually the early 40s, but it used to be a kind of variety show without any musical content, and then music was introduced, and Elvis had his first major recognition, I think, publicly in 1956 on the Ed Sullivan Show, and we all know the Beatles did in 1964, February. So the earliest examples I can think of a promo video as such, as opposed to just a performance on TV, would be Go Now by the Moody Blues, which interestingly is the lead singer from that song is Denny Laine, who went on to work with Paul in Wings. That's 1965, and that's more or less a straight performance, but it did have kind of shots of you know, their faces in silhouette and stuff to make it a little bit arty. Not very much. We're talking pretty basic here, but that more or less counts as one of the earliest promo videos. And then Subterranean Homesick Blues was Bob Dylan, hilariously just in the backyard behind the Savoy Hotel in London. Savoy Hotel, very famous hotel on the Strand in London, where Gilbert and Sullivan had done all their operas. Anyway, Dylan happened to be staying there, and he just went into the backyard of the hotel where the dustbins were and got a whole bunch of cards, and the Subterranean Homesick Blues was playing, and he just held up the cards and just ditched them as it came to the relevant word in the song. And you've probably seen the video. It's hilarious, and it is way ahead of its time because it wasn't promoted as a single as such, but it was in the film Don't Look Back, I think I'm right in saying. But yeah, Dylan seems to be the first genuine promo video, if we don't count Go Now, where the Moody Blues came out the same year. And then for the rest of the 60s, leading up to the mid-60s anyway, straight promotional videos were done. Take the Beatles, for example. They did straight performance videos where the four of them are just performing the song without any further elaboration. They did videos like that in black and white for We Can Work It Out, Help, Day Tripper, Ticket to Ride, I Feel Fine. And then similarly in colour for Paperback Writer in Rain, but they got a little bit more adventurous here because they went outside to Chiswick Park, Chiswick House Park and Gardens in West London. But it's still more or less a straight performance without too much other effects or art input, should we say, artistic input. And then in '67, I think this is the breakthrough, because Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane were both the subject of major sort of psychedelic videos where the Beatles went down to Sevenoaks in Kent for the Strawberry Fields video. And I think for the Penny Lane video, they were in Stratford in East London for the most of it. And it's just wonderful accompanying video to the song, because they're both trippy songs in a way, or maybe Strawberry Fields more so. But the video is, I don't think it kind of taken that much to cost that much to make. Although Penny Lane does have the costumes they dress up in, and the table, and the sort of servants coming in dressed up in their 18th century clothes, so it must have cost a bit, but nothing compared to today's standards. But anyway, then the video became, for the Beatles and other groups in the 60s, a kind of convenient way to promote a record. So if they didn't want to go on a top of the pops or equivalent in Germany or France or the US, they could just send the video. And they did this, they sent, I think it was Paperback Writer in Rain, they sent over to Ed Sullivan with a kind of little message for him saying, sorry, we can't be with you, but here's the video. And then, well, for the rest of the late 60s, we had, the sort of medium was growing, but it wasn't wasn't a lot of artsy kind of videos. They were mainly straight performances. I would like to point out We Love You from the Stones from '67, which was, I watched today in preparation for this, and it's hilarious. Keith Richards is sort of dressed up as the judge in a courtroom because the Stones were being busted for drugs and threatened with prison at the time, and caused a big hoo-ha in the UK. And the Times leading article, Who Breaks a Butterfly on a Wheel, with Sir William Rees-Mogg as the editor of the Times, bravely putting out that editorial against the Stones. But anyway, that video is very interesting, and it's a bit sort of mishmash all over the place, but it's worth watching a couple of times. And then we had a great video for Jumping Jack Flash with the Rolling Stones wearing evil makeup in '68. Pink Floyd even did some videos in the early days with Syd Barrett, like See Emily Play. Don't really call it a video, they're just mucking around really. And then the early 70s would see the further development of the video, and David Bowie was one of the first, not the first I don't think, but he did a lot of sort of promo clips for songs for Hunky Dory, which I guess you can call promo videos. I don't think the songs were singles, like there's a video for Queen Bitch and Oh You Pretty Things, which were very interesting to see, and he performed Starman on Top of the Pops. And then when he got big and famous, he went back and did videos for Space Oddity and Gene Genie and Life on Mars. But I guess the big breakthrough was Queen with Bohemian Rhapsody in '75, and you won't believe this, but it only cost £4,500 to make. And when I go through some of the prices, some of the costs of the more recent videos, it's staggering, because this video is often ranked in people's top 100 or top 50 or top 20 even videos. What they did is they mixed sort of them performing it with Freddie on the piano, and then just the silhouettes. I'm going to show it to you later, but I'll just quickly show you now. So this silhouette of the band, very effective and not very costly to do. They figured they couldn't just do a straight performance of all that, because it was a bit too many studio effects, vocal wise, etc. So they came up with a very good solution, and it propelled the song to the top of the charts. And then Abba came along, and they were groundbreaking in that they literally performed videos for all of their singles that I can think of, and a lot of the album tracks. And if you count promo videos plus TV appearances, and you rack up the number of performances the two mediums that combined would make as a percentage of their total output, I think we're talking about 75-80% of their tracks are captured on video somewhere. Maybe not in the early days, but certainly from Arrival onwards. It's quite staggering how much material, and they're good quality videos. And even in the early days, SOS and Mamma Mia were quite groundbreaking. It looks a bit dated today, but with the kind of faces sort of getting elongated and stuff in SOS. And the close-up on the lips of the girls' lips for Mamma Mia. I mean, it's pretty effective, and no doubt they helped sell the singles, because ABBA were big in every European country, not so much in the US, but they couldn't appear in every country for every single, so they quite sensibly made a video, and they're good quality videos, as I'll come to. And Boney M from Germany, well, they're from Jamaica, but with a German management, and they did some superb videos, and they became ubiquitous with the video form. And Blondie, not in the early days, but they soon caught on to the habit of doing promo videos to great effect, some great stuff from Blondie. And then this all led to 1981, MTV started in the US first, I think, where it was just non-stop videos. So, and I think it was quite addictive for people in the early days, although it did get criticism originally for not covering enough black artists and being a bit too sort of white rock centric. But so by 83 they'd rectified that. And I was sort of semi-addicted to MTV in the early days, not for long. It got a bit boring after a while. But from the early 80s, as I said earlier, it became sort of virtually ubiquitous, the video and the single. If you didn't do a video, your single was not going to chart, simple as that, because it wouldn't get played on MTV. Although you could still, Top of the Pops was still going, so if you wanted to lug it over to Shepherd's Bush or wherever they were recording Top of the Pops, probably not in Shepherd's Bush somewhere, it's probably White Hart Lane or somewhere, can't remember where the BBC used to be, but it'll come to me. Anyway, what was I going to say? So, yeah, I think there's something a bit phony in a way about miming to a song. And obviously it's very commercial because it helps helps sell the single. But there are some artists who refuse to mime to songs because for that reason, they just thought it was a bit tacky. And I'll come to some of those. And before I list my top favourites, I just want to go through some of my other artists that feature heavily in my record collection and give you my assessment of their video performances. They're primarily a thing to sell singles. So an album band like Led Zeppelin, I can't think of any promo videos they did other than just live performances of their songs, which may have been used to promote songs somewhere along the line, but no sort of specifically made promo videos. Pink Floyd, post Syd Barrett, very few promo videos made, unless you count the animated video for Another Brick in the Wall, which came from the Wall movie, which was very effective animation from Jared Scarf in particular, making that video memorable. And the final cut, they tried to do 3 videos for that. I remember I had it on VHS. They haven't even bothered to release it on DVD because the videos are so boring. So that didn't work. The Who, very rare again to see videos from them. The Stones, as I said, they did a few in the late 60s. Then they went quiet and there was nothing to promote any songs from Sticky Fingers or Exile. And then when Goat's Head Soup came along, there were 3 videos to go with that, and It's Only Rock and Roll, 3 to go with that. And then other albums later in the 70s, they would do promo videos quite religiously for those. See, Fleetwood Mac. I was watching the Tusk video yesterday. That's quite interesting. They're in the Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, and they've got the band all down there dressed up in their Roman sort of general uniforms and performing the song. Well, they're not miming to the song at all, but they're just mucking around in the studio. And all Stevie Nicks, Christine McVie, Mick Fleetwood and Lindsey Buckingham are there, but that John McVie couldn't make it, so they have a cardboard cutout of him, which was quite amusing. Just quickly covering Electric Light Orchestra, they made many promo videos, but they're for the most part just straight performances. Same with AC/DC. George Harrison, a very mixed performance from him. He embraced the video medium on a couple of his albums, and then for the rest of his career he didn't bother really. So mixed results from George. Paul McCartney, again mixed results, but I'll just take a couple of tracks from the London Town era, Mull of Kintyre, where the video was very successful because it evoked the Scottish scenery, which the song was about. But then the London Town title track for that video, they just went into a studio, albeit with Michael Lindsay Hogg producing, and did a very sort of tedious or boring video in the studio, walking along this imaginary street. And it's just talk about lack of imagination. They could have used the sights of London a lot more effectively. And just, by the way, I should mention that James Griffiths and I are writing a book on Beatles-related promo videos. It's in progress. I can't give you a date yet, but I'll keep you posted on the progress of that. So that's quite exciting for us, and for you, I hope, one day. John Lennon, very rare for him to do. I guess he didn't like just miming to songs. I can imagine where he did a deliberate attempt to do a video miming to the song. But other than that, I can think his videos are basically, he's just wandering around Central Park for the Mind Games video, which was also used for Number 9 Dream. And starting over in 1980, you correct me if I'm wrong, any of you guys out there, but I don't think there was a video at the time to promote it, which I think contributed to that song beginning to slip down the charts in the UK, at least just before he died, and maybe not doing as well as it would have done elsewhere without there being a video. I know retrospectively Yoko sort of used some footage of them walking around Central Park in November 1980 to sort of do a video, but I think they missed a trick with starting over, not having a video for that, considering he'd been away for 5 years. But anyway, I digress. Elton John, pretty rare for him to do videos until the 80s, where, like a lot of artists, he succumbed, and like there's a video for I Saw Her Standing There and a few others. Dylan, even Dylan managed to do, even he got sucked into the medium in the 80s and did a few. He's saying, I want to have hit records. And he kind of probably realised it was the only way he could do it, although he had come up with Subterranean Homesick Blues, albeit not to promote a single. Clapton doesn't really do videos. Supertramp did a few just straight performances. I just want to mention that I had a very strange dream the other day. It was quite a nice dream, because I was in a Q&A session with John Lennon in a sort of, there were about, 50 of us in the crowd, in the audience, and he was taking questions from the audience. And I asked him, I said, some of your videos with Yoko were quite avant-garde in the early 70s, and the promo video became a lot more common in the late 70s, and then particularly after you passed away they became very common, and I was asking you whether you would have embraced that had you lived. It's a very strange question to ask in a dream. And he just looked at me and said, no, I don't think so. And I said, but even Dylan was making videos in the 80s and he didn't seem very impressed with that either. So that was just interesting. I've had a few weird, bad dreams recently, but that was a good one. At least you get to meet one of your heroes who's been dead for 43 years or whatever it is. So let's get into my top 12. Well, I'm going to start off with, I don't have any caption from the video to show you, but it's the Subterranean Homesick Blues song from Bringing It All Back Home, 65, featured in Don't Look Back. And as I said, I've described that video. I think it's ahead of its time. This is in chronological order, I haven't ranked them. So that was 65. The Beatles, Strawberry Fields, I put that next. You can find that on this one video, DVD or Blu-ray collection. Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, number 3, which I talked about. Boney M. I'm going to choose Ma Baker from them. It's all about this gangster, and they're sort of dressed up as gangsters, and the guy from Boney M has got this sort of matchstick in his mouth and this hat, and he's in the car doing his wonderful vocals, although apparently he doesn't sing on the record, but he absolutely makes many of these Boney M videos memorable. So that was, I think his name is Bobby Farrell, by the way. Then we've got Abba. I've chosen The Winner Takes It All. I could have chosen Knowing Me, Knowing You. There's some great videos from Abba, all available on here. There's 35 tracks on this superb definitive collection. The Winner Takes It All is just a heartbreaking video because it's true to life, because Agneta and Bjorn had just split up in real life, so it must have been quite strange for them to perform this video where Agneta is on her own. Sorry, you probably pronounce it Agneta, sorry. And the other three are just laughing their heads off and just having a good time, and she's miserable, and it's very, very evocative. I remember seeing that on Top of the Pops in August 1980 when it hit number one. I think we just got back from a family holiday and turned on the TV, and there it was at number one. So that was ABBA, and then number 6, moving in, that was 1980. This is also 1980, and I'm going to choose Ashes to Ashes, which at the time was the most expensive video ever made. And it's just money well spent as far as I'm concerned, because it's actually my favourite video of all time, I think. It's just brilliant imagery and goes so well with the words. And yeah, it looks expensive, but this is one occasion where I would say, you know, it was money well spent. Talking Heads, I'm going to put, that's all. This is from 81. This is a chronology I have of Talking Heads, but strangely, it doesn't include the one I'm going to pick, which is Once in a Lifetime. From the 1981 album, which name escapes me now. I've forgotten the name of the album, but it's the one with the red sort of faces on the cover. That's a great video with, you know, sort of this weird David Byrne sort of walking around the place looking a bit demented, but very, very effective. Dire Straits. I'm going to pick a video from them, which you might be surprised that I'm going to pick, but it's my favourite, and it's Brothers in Arms, the title track of their 85 album. I think it's easily, for me, the strongest track on the album. Much prefer it to the big singles from that album. And there's a wonderfully moving video on here where it's kind of a mixture of animation and just sort of imagery, and goes well with the words, because it's a very heartfelt lyric, and one of Mark Knopfler's best lyrics, in my opinion. Number 9, I'm going to go with the 1986 track from Peter Gabriel. Sorry, these covers for these video collections are not very inspiring, are they? But the Sledgehammer video is very interesting, because you've got this sort of his face going all different shapes, and I can't really describe it. Just go and check it out if you haven't seen it, but it's ahead of its time. 1986 from the So album. And then we've got Sinead O'Connor with her superb video of Nothing Compares to You, which is just basically a close-up of her face singing these heartbreaking lyrics, and then just footage of her walking around a park in Paris, and it just breaks your heart to watch it every time. It's just thoroughly moving, well-deserved number 1. I'm sure the video had a lot to do with that song's success. Michael Jackson, Black or White, I'm going to choose next from this. Another uninspiring cover there for a video collection. From the Dangerous album, the lead-off single from Dangerous. This was expensive. This cost a lot of money, and it's going to appear on this list I'm going to show you in a minute. But I think it's a very effective video. I could have easily chosen Thriller or Billie Jean or Bad. There's some very good videos on here. Chock-a-block throughout his career, really. So that was Michael Jackson, and then we move into the 90s again with Blur, 1994, with the title track from Parklife, the album from that year, and it's got this hilarious kind of vocal in the song, and that's mimed by someone who's not in the band, I don't think, for the video, but very effective, and just the mucking around. It's I chose this one as much for the humour in the video as anything else, because there's nothing wrong with a song or a video putting a smile on your face if you're feeling a bit in need of that. So that was my top 12, or sorry, 12 of my favourites, should we say, not necessarily my top 12, because I've just taken it from stuff in my collection. There's other videos I'm sort of admire which are not on that list, and I'm going to just post a copy of that list in the description, I think, so if you want to check it out. And then, well, I'm going to look at whether it's money well spent, because David Bowie spent, I think it was $580,000 on Ashes to Ashes, which in today's money is $2.1 million. And that now ranks as the 70th most expensive video in terms of original cost, or in today's money it's coming in at 33, but at the time it was number 1. So it's been surpassed by 32 other videos in today's money. And Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson at the top of the list here, a staggering $7 million in 1995, worth $13.4 million now. And that's a lot of money to spend on a video, especially when the video isn't particularly memorable. I didn't bother watching it in preparation for this, but if I had to name my top 5 or 10 Michael Jackson videos, Scream would not be one of them. So I'm not sure what all the fuss, all the money was about there. Madonna, Express Yourself, $5 million spent on that in '89. Guns N' Roses, Estranged, $4 million spent on that. Michael Jackson, Black or White, we've mentioned, $4 million. Duran, The Wild Boys, $1 million. Sisters of Mercy, 1988, Dominion / Mother Russia, $1 million. And then Bowie we've talked about. So this was a list of some, just selected from the list I saw online of the most expensive videos. And that's got the original cost and then the revised cost in today's money. And, you know, I don't know what you think, but I think £4,500 for Bohemian Rhapsody is a lot more effectively spending money than some of those examples I showed you, and I'll just copy that list in the description to this as well. So that was my take on promo videos. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.